Back to this chapter 10 and this little book. Now, the little book expresses something that I think can be explained and light can be brought to bear on the truth of what this is saying, even though it was sealed up. It was sealed up to John. I don't think he really understood what he was seeing as it played out. But, when you read, for example, in Isaiah or in the Psalms, we find there that God actually stretches out the heavens. It's, the heavens today are still stretching. That's how the scientists can put things in reverse in computers and find out how long it's taken from the point where it all began. And that's why they've calculated 15 billion years. But actually, the scientists know that the universe is still stretching, exactly what the Bible teaches. God stretches forth the heavens. We also know that in Revelation and also in the Old Testament, in Isaiah also, that he rolls up the heavens like a scroll. Now keep in mind, the heavens are different than heaven. The heavens relate to the physical universe, and heaven itself is the domain of God, the Most High God. I am and I am. So we differentiate between heavens and heaven, and we believe also that the Bible teaches in Genesis 1 that God separated the waters above from the waters below and created an expanse between them. Now, waters is a reference to energies. The energies of, that when water goes through a dam, it pushes turbines, it creates electricity. So waters is also used to explain the energies of people, great rivers of waters, a reference to the flow of peoples. So Jesus then said, I give you waters, living waters, and that's the waters from above, from God's domain. But in between the waters above and the waters below is the expanse. He created an expanse, and that expanse is the universal construction, or the universe, and that is the heavens. So when John is seeing this vision, he's seeing a function and a direction and an expansion of the universe when he talks about earlier in Revelation that God rolls out the heavens and expands them. They are expansive. Then we find also in Revelation that the heavens are rolled up like a scroll. Now, this is really interesting and has a great deal to do with this little book, because when you look at Genesis 1, we find out that Genesis is actually a snapshot of this action of the expanding of the universe and the contracting of the universe. We find out that in Genesis that the earth was without form. The earth was without form. Now, most theologians will tell you, well, there was just darkness. The earth was still in a spherical form. There was chaos on the earth. But that's not what the Bible's teaching there. It's telling us that when the earth was without form, it wasn't in a sphere. It was just a mass of matter in a gigantic compaction. That the universe at one time began as a mass of matter in a compaction, a gigantic compaction that probably was reduced to a density that we couldn't even comprehend. And then there was a stirring over the compaction or the mass of matter, which contained also the Earth's matter, and it thundered forth. There actually was a Big Bang, just as the scientists have explained to us. It all started from a compaction. The Bible teaches this. And then it spread out and it stretched forth. And it's still stretching forth since the time of the big thunder. And then there'll come a time when there is a sound that goes out into all the atoms. And we find out in 2 Peter that the heavens will melt with fervent heat and the elements thereof. So it seems the Bible teaches that there's an expansion, a stretching forth, and there's a contraction, a rolling up like a scroll as it's reported in Revelation. And this coincides with 2 Peter when it says the elements will melt with fervent heat, because everything will go back into that compaction. So when we look at the book of Genesis, we are seeing just a snapshot, kind of like the accrual method in accounting, a snapshot of a certain point in time that is giving us insight into how our universe was created and how it expanded, and then at the end it goes back into a compaction. So there's a cycle that happens with matter, and those cycles continue. God makes universes, and we find here in the story or in this vision that John has here about this little book, that there have been 7 universes or 7 thunders. And it's clear that the Bible teaches that these 7 thunders are Alpha and Omega cycles. Alpha, the expansion phase, Omega, the contraction phase. And things go back into the compaction, and then God thunders again and builds another universe, and in that universe, he creates life forms. So our universe, even beyond our galaxy, which we can hardly understand with 10 billion stars, is full of life, and the universal construction is the womb of created life forms throughout. And we find ourselves in this colossal universe that is in its actual 8th cycle. There have been 7 cycles before us. We're now in the 8th. And in order for us to get on to understanding what happened in our galaxy, we have to see this context of expansions and contractions as part of the natural cyclical action of God's creative power. And that takes us way beyond how we've ever thought about our own existence in this cosmic order. It makes God a whole bunch bigger than we ever dreamed. And it makes us have to question even more deeply, what is our place in this colossal design? Who are we? Who are these mortals who we call ourselves? And what is our place in this universal order and a massive expansion-contraction cycle? One of the great proverbs that I think of from time to time is this one. It says, like apples of gold in pictures of silver. You know, unless we have frames, we have a hard time contextualizing existential thought or even biblical ideas. And it's important when you start to try to wrap your mind around your place in the universe by starting in a place that is inappropriate. Most people start their study of the Bible in Genesis because it means seed, and that's in a natural sense, you know, where most people would start trying to understand and contextualize and get a mind picture of creation and existence. But actually, it's important to go back to scriptures like this in Revelation 10 and others, and we'll bring up Revelation 12, which deals with the angel wars in just a minute, because this is where we need to start trying to understand and wrap our mind around existence and how it works and how God creates. So we had to take you back to Revelation 10 to kind of push out your vanishing point and stretch you beyond the way you've ever thought before. Most people read the Bible in a linear capacity, beginning to end, rather than in a circuitous understanding of God and how he works. His ways are not our ways. And what we mean by that is the way we understand time. We find in this particular area of Revelation 10, it says, and time will be no more. And in a sense, time is no more as we look at this in a circuitous sense, because time is just the reality of space and distance. So when stars are in a compaction, there is no time. But when stars are scattered, now we have distance, and when you have distance, you establish time. So as things go back into the compaction, of course, there is no more time. But as we see this from the outside in, we can say our whole concept of time is going to change, and our whole concept of existence is going to change. And we're going to get into more underscoring of this whole reality as we revisit the book of Genesis as it relates to the 7 days of creation.